President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
Meghan Markle has always been the woman who fights back, the woman who sues newspapers for headlines she doesn't like, who claps back at tabloids with expensive lawyers and official statements within hours. But this time it's different. This time there's only silence. And in a world where silence speaks louder than words, her refusal to respond is making people think the worst. Because when old photos resurface showing Meghan on a yacht surrounded by powerful businessmen and influencers, when deleted social media posts, missing friends, and whispers of NDAs start flooding the internet, and Meghan, who built her brand on truth and authenticity, suddenly goes quiet. People don't see dignity. They see guilt. They see confirmation. They see the cracks forming in her carefully curated image. Because if these rumors are true, if these deleted moments really happened, what else has she hidden? What else has been erased from her story? And as Colin Jost joke about her on SNL turns from comedy to cultural truth, as everyday digital detectives uncover timelines, guest lists, and vanished accounts matching perfectly with her past. The question is no longer about one yacht photo. The question is about whether the woman they thought was brave and real is actually the greatest strategist of them all. And in this silence, as her empire of authenticity crumbles piece by piece, the world is left wondering, was Meghan Markle ever real, or has it all been just a performance from the very start? Here's Meghan Markle has controlled her narrative with absolute precision, crafting an image of the fierce, independent woman who rose above Hollywood typecasting to become royalty. The humanitarian princess who championed kindness, truth, and justice. But now that image is slipping because silence is not her usual strategy. She has always been loud in her defense, always ready with a legal team, a public statement, or a carefully staged interview to shut down criticism. But this time, as the internet dredges up photos of her mingling with billionaires on Mediterranean yachts, as timelines are pieced together showing her strategic climb through elite circles, Meghan has nothing to say, no explanation, no denial. Just a void that's filling up with rumors. Because people don't see this as privacy. They see it as confirmation, and each deleted post, each missing friend, each NDA that surfaces is another crack in her glossy public persona. Because how? Do you sell authenticity when your past looks like a carefully curated brand campaign? How do you champion truth when your silence screams secrets? And as viewers stare at these resurfaced photos, they aren't seeing an innocent actress from Suits anymore. They're seeing a woman who planned every move, every friendship, every headline to build the perfect fairy tale ending, and suddenly, her speeches about empowerment and transparency sound less like inspiration and more like manipulation, leaving everyone to wonder if Meghan ever showed the world who she truly was, or if this entire journey was just the performance of her life. Not just the photos causing this explosion, it's what those photos represent. Because in one image you see a smiling woman who looks unmistakably like Meghan, surrounded by powerful men on a yacht under the Mediterranean sun. Nothing illegal, no obvious scandal in the frame. Just the uncomfortable reality that these moments were never meant to resurface. And it's the context that's igniting the storm. The date stamps lining up perfectly with her supposed struggling actress. Years. The familiar faces on that deck overlapping with names that have now been buried under NDAs and deleted Instagram accounts. And it's all a little too perfect to brush off as coincidence, because the internet never forgets. And these images didn't just vanish from public view. They were scrubbed, removed, erased quietly as her relationship with Prince Harry became global news. And now people are asking why. Why delete harmless photos if there was nothing to hide? Why distance herself from people who helped her rise? Why build a wall of silence around an old life unless that life tells a story that doesn't fit the fairy tale? And that question is what's spreading like wildfire. Because when the world senses a cover-up, they dig deeper. And with each uncovered post, each hidden comment, each NDA whispering secrecy, the Meghan Markle brand built on honesty and vulnerability starts to look like it was manufactured from the start, leaving her supporters desperate for answers and her critics quietly smiling as her empire of perfection begins to unravel under the weight of its own lies. Came the whispers that turned into questions and questions that are now turning into headlines. Because people started noticing that as Meghan's star rose higher, her past began to disappear piece by piece. Entire social Media accounts gone overnight, posts wiped clean, friends who once posed happily by her side suddenly silent or unreachable. Fellow actors who used to tag her in photos acting like they never knew her, stylists and influencers who once bragged about working with her now refusing to comment, some reportedly signing NDAs, others just vanishing without explanation, and it's that eerie silence that's screaming the loudest. Because when people are afraid to talk, it usually means there's something worth hiding, and the internet is ruthless. It doesn't stop at the surface. Citizen investigators with nothing but determination and time are combing through Instagram archives, facial recognition tools, yacht registries, and event guest lists. And what they're finding isn't one big smoking gun. It's worse. It's a web of small, consistent truths, all pointing in the same direction, timelines matching perfectly. With her rise, names lining up with people she now pretends not to know, photos matching yacht locations with her old check-ins. And each piece might seem harmless alone, but together they paint a picture that's impossible to ignore, a picture of a woman who wasn't just lucky, who didn't just fall into royalty, but who planned it, crafted it, edited, and deleted her way into the perfect public fairy tale. And now, as these secrets ooze out from under her deleted past, the world is starting to see Meghan Markle not as the brave outsider who exposed the royal family, but as the ultimate insider who mastered the game better than anyone else ever could. When it seemed like the rumors might fade back into the shadows, Colin Jost stood under the bright lights of Saturday Night Live and dropped the joke that changed everything. Because in that single moment, what was whispered in comment sections and private group chats exploded onto the world stage. The audience roared with laughter, but it wasn't just laughter, it was recognition. It was the kind of laughter that says we've all seen it. We've all heard it, and now it's out in the open. Because Meghan Markle, the woman who built her brand on dignity and empowerment, had just been reduced to a punchline. And when you become a joke on late-night TV, it's no longer gossip. It becomes cultural truth, something everyone believes without needing evidence. And from that moment, mainstream media couldn't ignore it. Headlines began to swirl with phrases like unanswered questions, mysterious deletions, digital cleanups. Even outlets that once protected her narrative started hinting that her silence was making things worse. Because when the world demands transparency and all they get is curated interviews and glossy photos, suspicion turns into certainty. And that's exactly what happened as citizen investigators rose up, regular people using facial recognition software, timestamps, yacht manifests, and influencer archives to piece together timelines Meghan hoped were lost forever. And what they found wasn't explosive in the traditional sense, but it was consistent, and consistency is what gives rumors the sharp teeth that tear reputations apart. Because it proved that behind the speeches, the gowns, the humanitarian hashtags, there might be a hidden blueprint of power, influence, and image control so perfectly designed that even royalty couldn't see it coming. Truly seals the narrative isn't just the photos or the timelines or even the NDAs. It's the behavior of everyone around her. Because former co-stars who once praised her now dodge questions, stylists who used to tag her in every behind-the-scenes selfie now act like they never knew her. Influencers who built clout off their connection to Meghan suddenly go silent. And when people choose silence over praise, it usually means they're protecting something. And behind closed doors, insiders whisper that Meghan's team is scrambling. SEO specialists allegedly working overtime to push down old articles. PR agents planting positive stories across media outlets. Platforms receiving quiet requests to scrub tags and blur names. But in 2025, trying to erase the internet is like trying to drain the ocean with a teacup. Every attempt to hide the past only proves there's something worth hiding, and that's the real danger. Because once the public believes you're wearing a mask, they start questioning everything that came before it, every speech about empowerment, every polished interview about authenticity, every royal moment captured under a sparkling spotlight. Was it ever real, or just the final scene in a perfectly directed movie? Because people don't demand perfection from their heroes, they demand honesty. And Meghan Markle built her brand on being the outsider who brought raw truth to the monarchy. But now, as each unanswered question stacks higher and her silence grows thicker, the world is starting to see not a brave survivor, but perhaps the greatest strategist of them all. And in the court of public opinion, That is the one thing they will never forgive. Now, as the dust settles and the world stares at Meghan Markle's carefully constructed empire, what remains is not just the question of who she was before the royal titles, but who she truly is behind them. Because this isn't just another fleeting scandal to be buried under tomorrow's headlines. It's a slow, relentless erosion of credibility. One hidden photo, one silent friend, one suspicious deletion at a time. And when you build your entire identity on authenticity yet, respond to every tough question with curated interviews, lawyer letters, and glossy lifestyle launches, people notice. Because Meghan was never supposed to become this. She was supposed to be the symbol of resilience, the woman who broke tradition, defied the crown, and inspired millions to stand up and speak their truth. But now she's becoming the warning. The living proof that when your brand is built on honesty but your life is filled with secrets, no amount of humanitarian hashtags or Netflix specials can save you. Because the world will always find the cracks, and when they do, it won't matter what crown you wore, what speeches you gave, or what causes you championed. All that will remain is the question whispered across timelines, podcasts, and late-night jokes. Was any of it ever real? Or has this always been Meghan Markle's greatest performance yet?